Well, hello to people, I hope you're doing well. Now this video today is a fully spoiler review of the A-Word Season 3. Basically, I'm going to be talking about the A-Word from an autistic point of view because I am someone who is autistic. I love the A-Word, so I just wanted to talk about it. But before we get into this review, just to make it clear, this is spoiler heaven. I'm talking about every episode, including the new episode which is going to air tonight on BBC One. So if you haven't seen that, you know, you're watching it on TV and you haven't streamed it or anything like that, make sure you save this for later. But for those who have seen Season 3 or just don't care and just want me to get on with it, let's get into it. So the A-Word Season 3 kicks off a couple of years after Season 2. I personally loved it, especially from an autism point of view, which I'm going to talk about during the course of this video, because there's a lot of talking points, mainly with Joe. Bless him, he goes through so much in Season 3. I mean, the fact that his parents are now divorced, and you know, Alison's living in Manchester where Joe goes to school, and you know, Paul, who is, you know, Joe's dad, you know, he's living in the Lake District still, and you know, he's having his own issues. And the first episode is a great example of how he really struggles with change and, you know, the changing situation. I mean, the fact that he throws his headphones, the thing that he uses to, you know, help him in general feel safe, he throws into the lake. You know, the fact that everything has changed so much, he kind of has associated the Lake District where he grew up is being a bad place with bad memories, and his new home of Manchester being the place where he feels safe and at home. It was really good how the A-Word actually handled that, to be honest, because I don't know, it's something that comes up quite a lot, you know, autistic people not being able to handle change. And I mean, even with the moving house scenario, you know, it can be incredibly stressful, not just for a kid but for any autistic person. I mean, for myself, yes, I had the choice of, you know, moving house, you know, moving into here as my first rented place, but it was still stressful because there's just a lot of things to consider, and you know, things are moving about and all of that stuff. But when it's out of your control, like you don't have any control over the situation, you know, it's 10 times worse, I think. And I think they depicted that really well in the A-Word, to be honest. And this idea of Joe struggling with change doesn't get any easier within the second episode, where we're actually introduced properly to Heather. And episode 2 shows how Joe again just isn't coping with all of the change, and how he associates school and also Heather being his safe place, especially after Heather kind of explains that the baby, Rebecca's baby, is not a bad thing, it's just something new, but it's not a bad change that's gonna happen. I've never been in that position where I really, you know, was attached to one particular person. I've never been that sort of person, really. I know people who are like that though, and they really got that right. I thought they got it really, really right. And I thought Judy playing Heather was a really fantastic casting choice, I must say. I don't know, she just did a really great job. Actually, in fact, everyone that played a part in the A-Word did a really fantastic job. However, I think the A-Word wouldn't be the A-Word without Mark. Now, Mark is a autistic adult, played by an autistic adult called Travis. I love the character of Mark. I really, really do, because Mark explores things that have never been talked about in media before, and it was just lovely. It was just great. He talked about the fact that he didn't identify with being autistic because he didn't have meltdowns anymore, or, you know, hurt himself because of those meltdowns and things, which I thought was incredibly interesting because I felt like that at that age. You know, I got to a point in my life where, I don't know, everything was going right. I wasn't melting down as much. I wasn't, you know, things were just going steadily along, and I felt like I was able to do things. I felt like, you know, my self-esteem was like yay high, and I could just do whatever I wanted. But anyway, the talk of identity was something I thought was a really great point, and I'm really glad they put that in. But going back to Joe now, another interesting, you know, moment in episode 4, it was the sponsored walk. which is Joe's favourite thing. He loves to walk, listen to his music at the same time, you know, it's his thing, but it's like a sponsored walk for the school to repair the minibus. But in episode 4, we see obviously the prep behind the walk and everything like that, but Joe keeps on worrying that something's gonna go wrong. The thing is, you know, with autistic people, some of us don't like being the center of attention. I mean, I don't. Yes, I make these videos, but this is my own space, you know. But yeah, because he was the center of attention, it raised his anxiety and all of that stuff, and basically he had a meltdown in his room. We didn't see him have a meltdown and that sort of thing, but his room was a wreck, which it took me a while to process it, because I kind of never expected that to be a thing for Joe. But I guess that is kind of my own preconceptions of the character, you know, but that is a thing that does happen with an autism. It was just a bit of a surprise that that happened with Joe. But eventually the sister managed to get him to do the walk. All is well with the world, but it was something that I thought was really, really good that they showed. The fact that even if it's something positive, like a birthday party for them, or just something that they like to do, you know, it can be an overwhelming experience. Even though it's a positive thing, it still can be an overwhelming experience. It was really, really good. It wasn't even me that noticed this, by the way. It was my friend Connor Ward, who is actually doing his own review, which I'm hoping he will have published by this point. I'll link it down below if he has. But yeah, it was something that he mentioned when I was talking to him about the A word. But another Joe moment, as well as Mark moment actually, because basically Mark took responsibility of Joe, took him out to the zoo, and there was all of this speculation about if Mark could handle it, you know, be with Joe, handle Joe and all of that sort of thing, which it's a preconception that comes up quite a lot. You know, as autistic people, we can't do things, we can't do this, we can't do that, all of that jazzy stuff. I don't know why I did that, but anyway, jazzy stuff. But they didn't get to the zoo in the end, but it was kind of nice that they talked about the transport element of, you know, getting public transport and, you know, that anxiety around, you know, lateness and earliness, things not being on time. But also episode 5 was my favourite because we got to see how Mark and Joe communicated with each other. It was just really interesting. I really loved it. The only thing that would have made it better was if Mark showed Joe his music and things, because in season 2 Mark played the drums and he likes music, he went to a gig and stuff, so it would have been nice, it would have been so cool if they had like a moment with music. I think that would have been really, really brilliant. It didn't happen. There was a brief nod to it and I thought it was going to go in that direction, but it didn't quite happen, so I was like, oh, don't toy with my emotions, man. But then we get to the last episode where Rebecca has the baby, the baba, the thing that's been building up throughout the course of the season, and basically her waters break in the car taking Joe home. Basically, she has no ways of communication, and it was just interesting how Joe handled the situation. He just did himself. No, that came out completely wrong. Basically, Joe did Joe. He basically went on a walk to find help, but it didn't look like it was helping, but he did his own thing, his own way. He managed to find help, but it also kind of showed how, you know, in terms of autistic communication, verbal communication is something that others might not necessarily understand, but there are other moments which I wanted to talk about here. I mean, one of them really stuck out to me was when in the first episode Allison is dealing with Joe. Like, Joe is just having like a stressy time. He was just feeling like whatever that emotion is, he was feeling that, and someone makes a comment about Joe, basically by saying, oh, I've got one of those at home, and Allison kind of gets into that defensive autism mum kind of thing, which I'm not trying to offend anyone, it's just the way I think of it. But we actually do get to see in episode 1 that he does understand, because his daughter is mischievous and talks back to Ben quite a lot. It's not explicitly said at all if, you know, the daughter is autistic or anything like that. But for me personally, it was really nice seeing Allison, you know, you know, get all autism mum assemble, and then being like, oh, actually there are people that actually understand to some degree what I'm experiencing with my kid. Other standout moments from the season, the wedding. I absolutely loved the wedding. It was just brilliant. It was just absolutely brilliant. But also in the last episode, and one of the things that really stood out again from Mark was him talking about change, which I felt throughout the entire season of season 3 was like a defining, overarching theme, you know, of how people deal with change, you know, whether they're autistic or not. And it was kind of nice from Mark as an autistic person's perspective talking about change as a good thing, because I personally feel as an autistic person, you know, the first thing that I think of when I think of change is that it's a negative thing, you know, even if it's a positive thing, you know, that's going to benefit me in the future. It's that sense of, this is scary, this is like, oh my god, what the heck is happening? I thought it was a really nice moment, to be honest, especially with Paul, who actually gives Mark a better paid job at Paul's restaurant and things, being the head waiter and things, which I thought was lovely. I just liked that whole Paul and Mark kind of sub scenario within the story. I thought it was really good. I thought both of them developed quite well. But anyway, I wanted to talk about some of the things now with the A Word season 3, which, I don't know, I think they could have explored a little bit more. Maybe this will be stuff that goes into possibly a season 4. But actually, if there's anything that you would want to see in the A Word season 4, if it became a thing, let me know down below, because I'd love to know your theories, your, you know, things, plots, all that sort of stuff. I think one of the things that they could have explored was females on the spectrum. Like I say, that whole thing with Ben's daughter in episode 1, they didn't really clarify if she was autistic or not, which, I don't know, it just left me feeling like they could have explored that side of things. I mean, the closest I felt that they were going to talk about autism in females was Paul's love interest called Sarah. Now, Sarah's a recurring character within the 3 seasons, but obviously we get to see her more and more in season 3 because she's Paul's love interest. Now, like I said, I don't want to presume, but when it came to Sarah and the way she interacted with Paul and all of that stuff, I just got this strong feeling that she could be autistic, and I don't know, I was kind of hoping they would explore that maybe a little bit. So I think some autistic female representation would have been great, or even just talking about autism diagnosis in adults that weren't diagnosed as kids, because again, Joe was diagnosed as a kid, and Mark, I'm presuming, was diagnosed as a kid. It would have been really nice as well just to talk about, I don't know, autism being diagnosed in adults, because there is a stark difference between kids and adults, and I don't know, again, it just would have been nice to explore. And again, I thought they were going to explore that with Sarah, but it didn't come out to be. But it's something that I would like to see in the A Word and how they handle it. I think I just thought the A Word season 3 was really, really great. It's just a great show. I can't put it any other way than that, really. And I would be disappointed if they didn't do a 4th season, mainly just to explore different avenues such as autistic females on the spectrum as well as autistic adults in a bit more detail. But I think they did a great job. But also to those people that have said, you know, they wish there was more autism based stuff in the show and less of the family drama stuff, I just have to say that that's not what life's about. I feel like the A Word gets this really great balance between life and educating people. To me, if there was more talk about autism and stuff, it would be a documentary. And to me, that's not what I want to see. You know, I want to see drama and, you know, just TV shows that kind of reflect the reality of people living in the here and now. And I think that the A Word does it in such a way where it's not in your face, really obnoxious. it does it in a way which is subtle. I don't think a show should be all about one thing, and I think The A Word does this magnificently well. It's a drama show, it's a family drama show, so it depicts family drama in a great way with a great bunch of characters, a great cast, acted really well, and they also talk about autism in subtle ways, in ways which I think people can create a conversation from, which I think is absolutely brilliant. And I just hope to see The A Word season 4 at some point in the future. But what did you think of the show? Did you think it was a good season? But also, if there was an A Word season 4, what would you want to see? You know, plot points, character development, anything like that? Let me know down below. It would be great to hear from you. But for now, stay you, stay indie. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you next time.